You don't have to be an alcoholic to have a problem with alcohol. This is what I want to talk about today. We as a society are extremely guilty of seeing alcohol in this black and white context, as in we see it as like, hey, you're not an alcoholic, your drinking is fine, it's socially acceptable, whatever. And what I mean by alcoholic, I don't know, someone who's drinking from sunrise to sunset, someone who's falling out of nightclubs at 4 a.m, someone who's consistently getting DUIs or abusive and abusing their spouse or their loved ones. But what I'm going to tell you is you don't have to be at that severe end of the spectrum. And this is how more people should look at alcohol. Who am I? I'm just a man who had trouble drinking. I considered myself a normal guy. What was my drinking? I mean, I would say I wasn't at the edge of the alcoholic spectrum. Like, let's talk about the spectrum first. You have here, never had a drink before, start drinking, and then this whole middle ground, which is everything in between, and then the very end where you're dependent on alcohol. If you stop drinking, you're gonna have seizures. You need alcohol in your blood 24/7. And then after that, it's death, rehab, jail. But this middle ground, this is the area we don't talk about. This is the area people frequently get stuck in. And this is the area where society will tell you your drinking isn't a problem. Like this whole area, this whole gradient, this whole spectrum. So what I'm going to tell you is two things. One, no one, if you're watching this because you were curious about your alcohol habits and your drinking behaviors, one, the only person who can make the decision to tell you that alcohol is a problem in your life is you. Two, like it can't be anybody else. Like if you're at the severe end of the spectrum where you're wrecking your car every day and you're drinking 24/7, people are probably telling you, dude, your drinking's a problem. You probably need to chill out. Like the severe end of the spectrum, people are probably telling you it's an issue. But everything else in between, like society accepts the hell out of that shit. And honestly, it's so easy to mask problem drinking as just socially acceptable drinking. Am I addicted to wine, or is it just wine o'clock? Am I drinking with my boys and being social, or out at a girls' night event being social drinking, or am I drinking because I want to mask it in that behavior? Like it's such a sticky situation. So what I would say is, one, only you can say whether or not you have a problem with drinking. And two, you have to really take a good, clean, honest look at yourself. Because I was stuck in that middle ground, you know, like I didn't need a drink every day. I could frequently go a couple days without drinking, sometimes a couple weeks. On rare occasions, I'd go like a month with no alcohol. But then my brain would tell me, oh, I went a month without drinking. It's not a problem. And then I'd go out and I would drink and I would party. And, you know, maybe I'd go out and 3, 4, 5 of the nights, no issues. But that 5th night, 6th night, issues. I'm chronically depressed. I am sabotaging friendships, ruining relationships. My ex-girlfriend ghosted me because I was drinking too much. And not because, she didn't ghost me because I was drinking too much. She ghosted me because of my behavior and the man I became while I was drinking. And, you know, that's fine. I've made peace with that. But what I'm going to say is, like, literally, oh, there's some groundhogs here. Here, I'm going to show you all this. Intermission. What up, guys? Oh, they're running in their little hole. Come back. But anyways, I got to this point where I'm just like, why am I doing this? You know, what started out as fun, like harmless fun for me was, you know, like, oh, going out, drinking, getting that dopamine, having a good time, unwinding, socializing. Alcohol got to this place with me where it would be like this thing I did. Like if I wanted to de-stress, if work was stressful, had a bad shift at work, I'm a trauma nurse, I see life and death on the regular, go home, open up a bottle of something. If I had to go to work the next day, a couple cocktails night before because fuck, I gotta go to work the next day. Socialize with friends, first dates. Like every alcohol was literally ingrained into like almost everything I did. And I never thought twice about it. And that's the crazy part. I was in this little middle spectrum area where it's just like it feels like just socially acceptable behavior. Wine is on the grocery list. Like, and the thing is, like, I was like going through the spectrum But while I was going through the spectrum, I didn't feel like I was going through the spectrum. I just felt like I was in this, remember, it's a big range of socially acceptable drinking. And I was in that range. Like, none of my friends thought I had a problem. To this day, none of my friends think I had a problem with alcohol. But I had to come to that decision for myself that my drinking was just so incongruent. Like, my behavior drinking was deeply incongruent with my ideal self, my higher self, the man I want to be, my core values when I drink versus me sober. Two completely different people. When I was drinking, I didn't even know what my core values were. And that's another thing. Like, I kept getting lost in the bottle. Like, instead of thinking about my life or the direction I was going or trying to focus on my health and building a brand and just doing all the things I wanted to do, it was too easy to just live for the weekend, go out, party, get that dopamine hit, feel good in the moment, and then put all of my dreams on standby. And what I'm trying to explain to you here, guys, is like, only you are the ones who can decide whether or not your drinking's a problem. So I would say, one, ask yourself a question. Did your behavior when you drank, like, is it really acceptable? Is it really the person you want to be? A lot of times the next day we just laugh it off. Well, one, we get too drunk, we don't remember what we did. Or two, we laugh it off like, oh, I was drunk, whatever. But I mean, did you really want to make out with that girl? Or if you're a girl, do you want to make out with that guy? Did you want to hook up with that guy? Did you wake up next to somebody you didn't want to see? Did you text somebody you shouldn't have been texting? Did you reach out to an ex? Did you drive your car drunk? Did you blow out a tire? What did you do? What did you really do? And one of the things I started doing is I would record myself while I was drunk. And I would talk to the camera just to force myself to see the man I am when I'm drunk. And I would talk about some dumb shit. Like, I'd be drunk, I'd pull out the phone, I'd be like almost crying, I'd be like super depressed, and I'd be like, I fucking hate my life. Why am I still drinking? And while I was drunk, I would remember, I really don't like drinking this much. But then I'd wake up or sober up after laying in bed for 2 days, like all that wasted time hungover. And then after you sober up and 2 days later, you forget like all the trauma and the drama that alcohol caused you. But if you record yourself, like while you're having those moments where you're thinking about quitting drinking and that's probably not good for you, you'll remember it and force yourself to look at those videos. Because when I go back and I look at those videos, I'm like, oh shit, I do not want to drink alcohol again. I don't ever want to be so hungover that I'm sick in bed for like 3 freaking days, having anxiety, panic attacks, feeling like the world is ending. Like, my drinking got pretty bad, and I'll do another video here in depth, like talking more about stuff, because I just hit 2 years sober, and honestly, it's kind of like the best shit ever. But getting to that point and getting to the point to where I had to realize my drinking was an issue, that was the tricky part, because nobody was telling me. And when I would look at videos on the internet, like nothing was telling me like, hey, you have a problem drinking. That's why I'm telling you right now, if you were thinking your drinking might be an issue, only you can decide that. Only you can examine your behaviors, and only you can say, yes, I want to take a break from alcohol, or no. And if you do decide to take a break out from alcohol, and if you're curious, like, that's one way to find out. Challenge yourself to go 30 days or 60 days with no alcohol. And what I found out when I was going through my journey of quitting alcohol is that was incredibly hard to do. I'd make it like a week or 2 weeks, or sometimes I'd get to a month, and then like I would snap. I would just be craving alcohol. I would just be wanting to go out and have a drink. And then it was a huge eye-opener for me, because, you know, I went from this person who thought like, maybe my drinking's an issue, let me try and quit. Let me just stop for like 30 days. And then when I realized like day 10, I'm drinking again. And like I couldn't stay away that long. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, maybe I am a little bit addicted to this without even realizing it. And that's the insidious thing about alcohol, is that it's addictive, but like the end game at the end of the spectrum where you need it every day, that is so far away. Like, there's this huge foggy gray middle ground. Like, you know, if you drink alcohol once or twice a week, but it's causing you to become somebody you don't want to be, and you're making poor decisions, and you're just doing bad things. Like, for me, I'm so sensitive to alcohol. Like, I could drink alcohol once a week, and then like 3 days later, I would still be depressed. I'd still be irritable. I'd be like wondering like, why am I feeling like shit? You know, I'm working on my diet, and I'm trying like exercise, I'm meditating, and I'm like, why am I still feeling so depressed? And like I realize alcohol actually impacts me that severely. Like a few drinks for me is like the week is wasted. Like for me, for some, and you know, people don't think about this. People think about the initial hangover of alcohol. You go out, you drink, you wake up the next day, or you have a headache, you're hungover, that's fine. And then day 2, day 3, they assume they're normal. And that might be the case for some people, and especially if you're in the low end of the spectrum, you probably like, it's not more than that. But I think when you get more towards like this foggy middle ground area, the side effects from a night of drinking are way more long-term. Like literally, like I would have these days where I was just like irritable and like depressed and like anxious and having panic attacks, and I couldn't put my thumb on like what the issue was. Well, I know what the issue is now as someone who's quit drinking. All of that stuff resolved. Anxiety went from like a 10 to like a 1. My depression and my mood swings went from like 10s to like, you know, I don't have mood swings anymore. That's gone. Depression, I get a little depressed sometimes, but I think getting depressed is just a normal human response. But in general, but it's not as severe as it used to be, guys. Like, oh my God, since I quit drinking, like everything is so much better. And I couldn't be more happy. But for the longest time, I was struggling. And that's why I'm making this video, because we struggle and we don't know what is going wrong with our lives. And we're just like, you know, we're doing things, we're feeling certain ways, and we don't ever think alcohol is the problem. That's the thing. Because unless you're at this far end of the spectrum, like that textbook alcoholic, if you're not that, then you must not have a drinking problem. I'm here to tell you, like, it's not that simple. It's a huge gray area, and it's a decision that only you can say for yourself. Like, I can't tell you, like, hey, you have a drinking problem. Only you can analyze your behavior and really take a third person out of the box look at yourself and examine your behaviors and how you're feeling and decide, like, hey, is this thing causing me trouble? And if you're not sure, just try quitting. Try quitting for 30 days to a month and see how different you feel. And if you feel different, and if you're like me, after like a couple months, your anxiety completely goes away, your depression, the blue feeling you were feeling inside, that emptiness starts to fade, well, then you know, wow, it was alcohol this whole time. So guys, alcoholism, drinking problems, it's on a spectrum. There's the low end, the middle end, and then the high end. The high end's obvious, but what I'm here to tell you is examine your behavior, guys. 1, take a break from alcohol. I don't regret it. I think society overhypes alcohol. And while it is fun for a bit, I think eventually for everyone, it stops being fun at some point. And then all you have to ask is like, how far down the spectrum do you want to go? Do you want to get to the point to where you're dependent, drinking it every day and having seizures? Like I didn't. I watched Brandon Novak's video on addiction while I was struggling with my own drinking problems, and while I wasn't like at all that severe. Real eye-opener. I highly recommend it. Like, check it out. Like, that was like, wow, I can't let it get to that point. Like, I don't want to be, I don't know, having seizures and dying. But anyways, guys, trying to keep this video a little lighthearted and simple. Alcoholism, alcohol abuse, addiction, alcohol problems, drinking problems, whatever you want to call it, it's a spectrum. Nobody can decide for you if it's an issue. Only you can say whether or not it's an issue. If you have any questions, leave me some comments. I'd love to give you guys some feedback as a relatively normal guy who struggled with society's drug of choice. I'd be happy to share my advice with you guys. Anyways, guys, please do leave a like if you enjoyed this video, comment, subscribe to the family, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient.